G'day guys, welcome back to Hanging with the Heathens. We've had another little break. I moved house, went to Japan, that was pretty cool, and everyone's just been like a little bit busy. But we're back, and today we thought we'd just do a little episode on our favourite gods, or what god we kind of have the most to do with. So that'll be cool. First up, what are we all drinking, if we're drinking?
Oh no.
Oh.
Miller Lite. I got the old Ned Kelly's, old faithful, but I think we'll kick it off with Puck. Who you got for us this week, Puck?
Well, so obviously there's always trying to figure out who you're gonna go with, or who you want to discuss, and I think a lot of people touch on Odin and Thor, and I'll just go with one of the top ones and discuss Tyr.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said in the past, like on previous podcast episodes, the only connection to Tyr, and almost not only as like a warrior god, but also the fact of like a god of almost sacrifice, right? Sacrifice for the greater good, the good of the many, right? As we know from Tyr losing his hand to Fenrir to bind him, right? And I don't think we have to go into detail on that, except for the fact, if anybody's unfamiliar, was Tyr, Fenrir wanted somebody to put their hand in his mouth so that he would let him, the other gods put the bindings on him, and he accepted that and said, I'll do it. And then in turn, got his hand bit off. So to me, especially being in the military, I always kind of feel a strong connection to that of, sacrificing, maybe not necessarily, there are people that sacrifice limbs in the military, but, sacrificing time, energy, family, anything for the greater good, or the safety of others or the well-being of others. And so with Tyr, that's kind of what I associate with or feel a connection to.
Yeah, and possibly yourself too, like if you're in a war situation, and you're fighting overseas, you're prepared to do that as well, so there's that aspect of it as well.
Well, definitely, and then, Tyr is also associated a lot with justice and things like that, so when you think of, in the line of work that I follow, bringing justice for people that might not necessarily be able to defend themselves, or, get the upper hand on whoever's, bringing tyranny upon them.
Definitely.
There's definitely that connection between them. And like I said, a lot of times, offerings to Tyr, just be, sacrificing your time, when you go to do something and, you'd rather be with your family, or, I can't go to a family get together or whatever, because I have to go do what's important or what's required of me. You almost look at that as okay, well, I can use this as a time to offer my time, So,
yeah, that's cool. That's definitely cool. And obviously, thinking outside the box, if you're ever doing something that's either going to, help someone, protect someone, that is also a good time to keep him in mind too. I talked in the past, when I did the jury service thing, it's definitely a time to keep him in mind, because you're literally, because you're literally involved in the process of delivering justice. So it's a good time,
Yeah, that's almost hand in hand.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I like it.
Yeah. For my one, I'm going with Hoda. Everyone kind of knows why, I guess, by now. But, so Hoda's an interesting one. There's not a lot about him, but I've kind of pieced together my own little, idea story of like what he's about. So he's associated with darkness and winter, and there's two stories about him. And in the main story that everyone knows, he's the blind god who gets tricked by Loki to throw in the mistletoe spear at his brother and killing him, right? There's also a second version of the story by Saxo Grammaticus, in which Hoder and Balder are like, they're brothers still, but they're both like leaders of war parties, and it's kind of like a Helen of Troy situation where they're both trying to go after the same chick, and Balder drinks this like broth or soup of immortality, and Hoder like goes into the underworld to like get this spear to kill his brother to like get the chick, but then they end up both killing each other. So for the longest time I always thought Hoder to be like the blind god in the literal sense, and that's why I kind of gravitated towards him, obviously. But I've kind of more come to see him as like I've kind of blended the two stories. So like my theory at the moment is like, what if his blindness wasn't literal and it was like a metaphor or like a figurative for like he was blind to Loki's deception? So what if he was like this capable warrior, and there was the party where everyone was throwing shit at Balder because like nothing could kill him, and like Loki's like slipped a mistletoe arrow in his quiver, or you know, put mistletoe in his spear or whatever without him knowing, and he did it, and because of that he was blind to what he was doing in Loki's deception, and that's why he's the blind god. I like that, and I also like the idea of, and again this is just because of like my personal experience, like even though he was like blind, doesn't mean that he has to be this like gullible, like weak dude who just got tricked. You know, like he could have been like blind and also a fucking badass, you know what I mean? So he could have been blind in both senses. So that's a little bit about Hoder. Offering wise, I used to like offer him food into the fire when we would do like gatherings and stuff to like invite him in and like join in the celebrations, because in the Snorri story he like gets left out. But one that I have planned for winter solstice, with him being the god of winter and darkness, is I'm gonna do an offering in like complete darkness at like late at night when it's like really really dark and cold, and offer him some native like flowers that only grow in the winter time, because we don't really have mistletoe here. So yeah, that's cool. I think he's a good one because I've had a lot to do with him, and not that many people know about him.
I think what else is good about what you said is that it really kind of defines the point of everything in this faith is open to interpretation. The way that you put it is outstanding on pointing out the differences of, you know, perspectives or sources that you might find, and just kind of tailoring it to how it makes you feel or how it impacts you. And
definitely too, like my interpretation of him has changed as I have changed, like from where I used, you know, where I was at to like where I am now, you know. It's definitely like, I guess, reflects that, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Yes, that's really cool, and that was actually a really good point to bring up there, Puck, about like how, yeah, we don't just have to take the stories at face value. It's all about like how different people interpret it. They're gonna get a different story. But
like you said, you know, your interpretation is going to develop as you grow,
mm-hmm.
and also, you know, you might, you know, just like we've talked about in the past, is you might gravitate more as you grow as a person or grow in the faith, gravitate more towards other gods or goddesses, more or less, or
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a Jesus is the answer, follow the yellow brick road. Like you have a little bit, you have a lot of directions to choose from.
Yeah, it's all dependent on like what you need. But yeah, go ahead, Cody.
So I went with Mani. Good old. That's what I went with. The reason I went with Mani was because I feel like he's a little underrated. Everyone sees him and they think, full moon means some sort of holiday time. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like not a lot of people actually will sit down and take the time to hang out with Mani. Give him a little offering or something like that. Normally that's what I would do. If I need something from Mani, like if I wanted to recharge or cleanse something, I'll give him a little offering of like some mugwort tea or something, a little bit of honey in it.
Well, yeah, I know even like myself, like 100%. I don't like really do much with Mani. Like I do the whole thing like, oh yeah, cool, full moon, whatever, might do something, might not, but yeah, we definitely don't give old boy time of day.
Yeah.
Just like anytime there's an eclipse, people are like running to it.
Yeah.
There's an eclipse, I can do pagan stuff. Or like, there's a full moon, like I can do pagan stuff, and it's like, you're literally forgetting about the guy, the moon guy.
Hey, Cody's the moon guy.
Well, I think a lot of people are just like, oh, it's an eclipse, I gotta go offer to Odin or something. And it's like, whenever I see an eclipse, I always do like an offering to Mani, just kind of like, in my mind, it's kind of like, hey, like, I feel like that's almost like a struggle period. Like, hey, hope you come back. Like, hope you get whatever you're going through. Like, yeah, best of luck, bro.
Yeah, but it sucks that there's not a lot of information out there for him, especially for Soul, whichever one you prefer for Soul or Suna. But yeah, Mani, there's just not a lot of information other than the fact that they're both being chased by Skull, which is mockery, or what is it, hate?
Haughty.
Haughty. Yeah, and that's pretty much what all we fucking got.
I know. Yeah, you got Paul.
No, and what's funny is there isn't a ton of information, but if you look back through time, every civilization, every pantheon, everything had so much to do, because if you go back to almost like Neolithic or close to like
Stone Age, Stone Age.
You want to call it Stone Age? There you go. The sun and the moon were viewed as gods, and so the sun and the moon control everything on our planet, and so it's just funny that those are kind of the god and goddess that kind of fall on the wayside, and you don't see a lot. But they carry so much impact.
They're the two that, like, without them, there would be no us anymore. There would be no Earth, no nothing. It would just be. But when it comes to worship, I don't hear a lot about it at all.
Well, yeah, just like for spring, everybody jumps to make offerings to prayer and things like that for harvest and reproductive prosperity, I guess. But you don't think about soul and the return of the sun and things like that, and the sun bringing life and everything. Or like I said, the moon. How many people join, say, the Navy, and they all want to offer to Njord, but they don't think about Mani and the fact that the sun or the moon controls the tides and things like that. So.
Right? Yeah. Eye-opening, isn't it?
100%.
Come on. Day.
Another thing that me and Cody were talking about just before we started the recording is I don't know if it's just me, but for whatever reason, people always get Suna and Mani their gender. Everyone for some reason thinks that Soul or Suna is the man and Mani is the chick, but it's so easy to remember. Literally, man on the moon. Mani is the moon. Yeah, and I just thought that was interesting. How so many people think that Soul is the masculine and Mani's the feminine for whatever reason. It might be a Roman thing. I don't know.
It could be Roman. I couldn't tell you.
Or Egyptian, or
Yeah, something.
True.
I just thought that was interesting. But yeah, literally, like, the sun and the moon is so important. Like, literally, I mean, up until we had, like, electricity and, like, streetlights and stuff like that, literally, the sun and the moon dictated, like, when we slept and when we, like, went out to the fields and worked, and dictated basically our entire lives.
Oh, yeah, could you imagine?
Then you know daylight saving time.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine getting a full moon back then and be like, yes, we can go hunt at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Bro, like, I didn't even realize, like,
things.
yeah, don't know what that's like. But like, even when we went to, like, when we had our gathering like a few weeks ago, it was like a full moon, and yeah, like, just sitting around a campfire or whatever, like, you could see like everything because it was the full moon. Like, it was almost daylight, not daylight, but like, it was almost like as bright. You know, it was crazy.
Yeah. I remember being in the middle of the desert. You know, it's pitch black out unless the moon comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could just see for miles in the middle of the night. It's like 12, 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's full moon, so you can just see everything. It's nuts.
That's crazy. That is crazy. But, yeah, no, I guess that's a good, like, thing to talk about, of, like, going back to what you were saying, Puck, about, like, how, you know, just because we don't have source materials on, like, every single person or every single thing, you know, something I've always said and something I've always tried to do, especially with Hoda, is, like, you kind of have to take the source material that you do have and see where, like, all of the like, see where they all, like, sort of say the same thing, and you almost have to, like, take what you know and, like, build the rest yourself, you know what I mean? Like, and that...
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, that's what I was going to say, was, like, you know, with money, right, in Soul, there's not a ton of information, you know. I mean, plenty of other gods and goddesses that, you know, like, are better halves at Maids of Midgard doing their goddess little run of almost like baseball cards. So there was names that were popping up. I was like,
who is this?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
you know, so that was not a lot of. I mean, well, one, when you're talking about how long ago, you know, Christianity kind of came up on the rise, and, you know, how, one, with time, and then two, with basically, you know, the victors rewriting history and things like that, you know, a lot of stuff was lost to time. So at that point, it's like, you kind of got to take maybe what you have, a little bit that you have, and then build off of that, you know, about how you perceive it or how it makes you feel. We have to kind of write ourselves forward into the future and start creating, I mean, don't be bullshit, but they make like some like off the wall shit, like fucking Thor conquered the Martians, like. Yeah,
no, but like, kind of like I said, you know, take what you know and make an educated, like, theory or whatever, like, out of it. And I think too, like, that's not problem, but I think that's where, like, a lot of, like, Reconstructionists, I think, kind of like miss the forest through the trees kind of thing. They're so, like, dedicated to, like, rebuilding, like, the old ways, but it's like, you know, we need to move it forward a little bit too. Like, Reconstructionism definitely has its place. Not saying that, like, I definitely think an element of Reconstruction is important, but I don't think we should fully go back, you know. Like, I think we have to take what we can and adapt it and move forward.
And this is a little off the wall, but I remember back when, like, the paleo diet was the big thing, and everybody's like, you be a caveman. And I heard a guy tell me once, he goes, you think if a caveman saw, like, a bacon cheeseburger, he wouldn't, like, devour it in an instant? Like
100%. It's like that. You know what I mean? It's like that scene. It's like that scene in Meet the Spartans where where he's at doing his trial and he sees the fucking Subway sub and he, like, picks it up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing, is, like, people want to stick with, you know, oh, how was it done 1,000 years ago? Well, things were so much different about them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I feel...
the kind of difference to now.
Like, we can't, like... I mean, not that we can't, but, like, we can't really, like, go out and, like... Most of us just can't go out and, like, hunt for our food every day because we live in cities and, like, shit like that, you know what I mean? Like...
Cats?
What was that?
I see you don't like cats?
Yeah, pigeon. Bit of pigeon.
No, it's the same with symbols and stuff. I just found out not too long ago that the Web of Weird was actually created in the 90s, like 1990s.
Yeah.
So it's not actually an ancient like symbol whatsoever, but it's still used today.
Yeah.
But that's just, you know, modern practitioners creating symbols to mean specific things. It's us still expanding.
I think that's the other thing. Like we've kind of veered off into this little rabbit hole, but like we're in a short episode anyway, so it's fine. But like that's the other thing too with like the whole Reconstructionist like view. Like people like take certain symbols like the Vegvisir, and they're like, that's not from the Viking Age, so you know it's invalid or whatever. But I'm like, it's still like a bind rune, you know what I mean? Still uses all of like the same shit, and it's like you were talking about, Puck, like that guy Northern Black, the tattooist, he made runes for numbers because people wanted like dates and like shit like that on their tattoos, and there were no runes for the numbers, so he just made them. You know, like. But
to be fair, it's like, you know, there's so much mystery when you think of things like the runes, things like that. Like a lot of that stuff is just educated guesses and things like that. So
exactly.
I mean, history is modern, or history in the modern mind sense. Looking back at things is nothing but educated guesses, because it's not like you can just call somebody and be like, "Yo, what was it like back then?"
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we've beat the dead horse. You guys got any other cool facts that you might have not thought about while we were doing our spiel on each of our gods?
Whenever I've heard a story that whenever it's a solar eclipse or like a lunar eclipse, that if you run out there and you howl at the moon, you scare away whichever wolf is trying to attack.
Yeah, so I was actually gonna like ask you if you knew anything about that. I've heard, not like a lot, but like just here and there, I've heard that like the eclipse is like the wolf like catching up to like the cart, you know?
Like it's getting eaten. You're like,
yeah.
That's what I was saying, like I make offerings to it.
Yeah.
Like I go out and I put my pistol out on there.
Just pop some rounds into the sky, like, fuck off!
Slide this out there in case you need it.
Piss off, ghost.
Yeah, rounds of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. Just because we brought them up briefly, if you don't know about our female counterparts, Maidens of Midgard, definitely go and check their podcast out. Basically, wherever you're listening to this, you can also listen to their podcast. Check out their Instagram. They are killing the social media stuff. Katie is a whiz with all that stuff. She's got stuff coming out all the time on the Instagram. And yeah, they're basically the other side of the coin to us, so we're just a bunch of idiot dudes sitting around drinking, talking about stuff, and
if you get tired of the bros,
yeah, go and check out the Sheilas, as us down Aussie land would say. The ladies. But yeah, give them some love. They're doing really cool stuff. It's very unusual, unfortunately, to see like them be really the only like female like I guess media.
Maybe they're the tip of the spear.
Maybe they're the tip of the spear.
Damn
trailblazers of the next generation.
Yeah, here's hoping. But yeah, go check them out. They're doing some cool shit. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up. Any general life advice, cool facts, anything like that for the end of the episode?
Drink your milk.
Drink your milk. Yeah, don't be a shit cunt.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Don't, as someone once told me, don't piss in the wind.
Yeah. But, yeah, cool. Well, I guess that'll do it for us, guys. We'll hopefully get back on a regular schedule now that sort of everything seems to be settling down. And, yeah, thanks for hanging with the Heathens, and we'll catch us on the next one.